And other things for the firefighters and evacuees and stuff. It's great to see that community effort, and I know I was just notified of one such company that helped out our local firefighters, dropped off some water and snacks, and that was at Phoenix Mobile Home Park. So everybody's chipping in, and that's great to see that it's working together. That's what puts the community together and keeps everything moving along. So a big thanks to all of those people. I'm going to make a motion on the agenda. We did have an addition with a sponsorship for the evacuees that I'd like to talk about, and we can put that under new business, and which would be, I guess, 8.1. Sponsorship for evacuees. And I know that there was an in-camera item to add on there. So those are the two changes. Is there anything else? So I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda with those two changes. All in favor? Okay, it's carried. We'll move on. No scheduled delegations. Any public delegations? Seeing none, we'll move on then to our fire chief's report. Get a motion on this one, please. Councillor Stenos.
That council receives the fire chief's April 2023 report for information.
Thank you. And we'll turn it over to the fire chief. Is there anything you wanted to add? I know there's been lots happening since you did this report.
Yes, it has. Basically, there was a couple of highlights that I originally threw on here. One was I hadn't contacted, but the county fire chief had contacted CN to see if we could get permission to do controlled burns along the railway tracks. That is no longer an option, as anything on the CN right away is a $1,000 fee to submit an application. It is an 18-page application, and you need to give 15 days notice to have this permit to be enacted. So basically, we are not going to be doing any controlled burns along the railway right away because of this policy that they have. So that was a little bit interesting. The other thing too, and I don't know if you noticed, but we had a bunch of our firefighters out and about with fire trucks washing lots. It was a fantastic training event that worked out tremendously for us in these past few days. Everything that we trained on was utilized in the actual fire ground. So we didn't use any town water. We drafted, we found water supplies, water sources, did all kinds of water transfer. People got on their hands on hose lines, and past week or past few days, like I said, it worked out very well. So if you got questions about that, that is what we were doing. It was actually a training event that we set up. Outside of that, my report is submitted to council, just the highlights of the past few days, I guess. I don't know what is appropriate to release at this stage of the game and what's not appropriate to release, but I have not tabulated hours of my folks, but like I know for myself, I did around a 30-hour stint in one shot. Thankfully, we had Jamie Coots and his son come from Slave Lake and spell off us to take a little bit of a breather, get some rest, and come back the following day. And a little bit of prayers went upstairs to get some rain, and it prayers were answered, so it made our life a lot easier the following day. So I'm gonna just stab a guess and say probably 1,000 hours that's gonna be put into and accounted for this fire that we've been working. In fact, I just came back from hotspot response here just before council, so we are going to probably end up with endless calls because all the embers that are burning underneath peat mosses and trees and everything else like that, and concerned citizens worried about, I guess, flare-ups and stuff like that. So, and which is a viable concern. There's a lot more. I guess I'll leave it to questions for you that'll be more directed, and then we can go from there. So I open myself to questions.
Go ahead, Councillor Winkle.
So, going back to the CN thing, they're charging you $1,500, $1,000
Yeah.
to reduce the fire hazard.
Yep.
And is this is province-wide, countrywide?
Province-wide.
Okay, that's some crap right there. We need to jump on with the Alberta municipalities and the what is it, RMA for that the counties are part of, and put some pressure on them, because I mean I live at the tracks. I see the fuel buildup that is there. They're just begging for a disaster.
We used to do control burns along West Fraser Mill. Lee Barton was actually very proactive with that, and we would choose the right time of day and winds and whatnot, and we would burn along West Fraser Mill. That was basically the biggest hazard reduction that we were doing, and that's not going to happen anymore.
Because of the CN thing?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a safety issue, Mr. Mayor. We need to, every resource we have at our disposal, we absolutely need to put pressure on them. I'm gonna stop talking because I'm really angry right now with CN. That is beyond stupid and irresponsible on their part.
I think probably my speculation is something happened somewhere along the line that caused this to be enacted. That's typically why things are made, right? So I would assume that something happened, and that is the reason why they do this. No.
Yeah, it's a piss poor excuse, I think.
It's kind of like developing seatbelt rules for people
Well,
wearing
we can
seatbelts.
ask them to come and, put burn, because we want to see our community protected, especially, knowing that there's fires that could be coming that direction. I mean, we know they can't burn right now, but
Yeah.
it
Yes.
would be good.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, we're not doing any burning in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, clearly, but I mean, the fact that they're charging you for that, it flies in the face of common sense and logic and anything. Like I'm stunned that they would do something so foolish as this. So we're gonna jump on this from our end and start screaming into every megaphone that we have to put some pressure on them, because unfortunately trains, it's not, and it's not just the trains. I know the sparks can come up, but it's not just that, but it's anything. The fuel load is so high there. Anyways, just a thank you to you and your teams that, the amazing job that you guys have been doing here over the last few days.
As I've been articulating to people and also to the meeting last night in the County Big Lakes, it's half firefighters and half the community and farmers and contractors and stuff. I can't take all the credit, or my firefighters can't take all the credit. Half of the credit goes to the farmers that came out and did what they needed to do, because there is no way that we would have done what we did without their assistance. No way whatsoever.
Well, thank you to you all for your efforts.
Councillor Stenhouse.
Can you elaborate more on these washing of these parking lots? When was that done?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, it's okay.
And trust me, again, we did not use town water, we used, Downhill water, creek water, so,
It's okay, yeah.
okay.
Councillor Tanaka?
As well, I would like to reiterate my thanks for your efforts as a part of the team that with Big Lakes County firefighters, farmers, ranchers, everybody worked together, and hopefully we're hopefully we're gonna get past this. I understand there's still some major flare-ups, Banana Belt Way and stuff, but it was definitely a team effort, and everybody's effort is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Shishin?
I'll emphasize that as well from my end. It was, I witnessed exceptional community spirit and really big community getting together and really looking out for one another and the neighbors and each other, really, basically. And it was phenomenal. And of course, with your lead of yourself and the firefighters themselves, so huge. You know, they see you out there. They're pulling together, and everybody works together as a community. It was just exceptional.
Yeah, I potentially forgot, like, we've been going out doing hotspots, working here the last couple of days, and we go uptown for lunch, feed the guys, and a lot of the restaurants have been saying thank you very much, and we have a meal and away we go back to work. So it's also the community. The whole community is getting together and supporting the whole process. Yeah.
And thank you.
All right. I guess I can share with everybody that we were in a meeting with Forestry and with East Prairie and the chair of East Prairie. It said what a great job that our fire department did in helping out in the East Prairie area. So he was really, really pleased with that. And I know, Trevor, you were there, you heard it directly, but I think everybody else should hear that too. They felt that they did a good job, and so thank you for that. And yeah, good work. How are the firefighters doing? How is the crew? They must be getting tired. They work.
Well, that's the fine balance that I'm trying to find here between, you know, all the hot spots that are going to be flaring up and popping up, and I actually watched a news article saying that, you know, when, I can't remember where it was, but, you know, the firefighters are burning out. They have jobs that they go to, and they are volunteers, and people have to understand that and realize that. We're not going to be able to drop everything to go out and, you know, if there's a little burning ember, to go out and put the little burning ember at some point in time. Folks need to understand we are volunteers, but in the same token, we provide the service, but we also need their assistance to look after some of those stuffs that, you know, those smoldering things. We are trying to develop a plan where if people have these smoldering issues, that they're not calling 911, they're calling 310 Fire, and it's Alberta Forestry that's going to be looking after all of this small stuff rather than us. If it is threatening structure, then obviously we are going to be responding for that, because Alberta Wildfire does not do structure protection. So it's going to be a balancing act to get people to understand.
Councillor Dunn.
So given what we heard and saw last night, I am wondering, and maybe there's been thought or talk around the possibility of Alberta Fire or local fire departments doing education programs so that communities are more aware. And, you know, it's people we heard last night were saying if we would have had just one person come and give us information on how to fight this fire, we would have done better. And you know, in looking at what they did do, in my mind, is pretty incredible.
They did what needed to get done.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, like moving ahead, do we approach government? And I know that there's this huge fear that insurance is created because of, you know, but I'm going, wouldn't that be, because I look at systems and what I see is when we start to remove responsibility and tasks from people that can do those tasks and give them to just a small group of people, we lose the capacity for greater involvement and probably greater achievement. And so I'm wondering if we can just, you know, make a system where people have at least the opportunity to get educated and know what they can do if this happens. Because, I mean, fires happen all the time, and apparently it seems that it's getting worse.
Yeah, there is a very strong program of fire smarting. Fire Smart Canada, I think, is the website, and it's got a tremendous wealth of information of what people could and should be doing for fire smarting their properties. And it's actually quite interesting because when I was out and about, there was one residential structure out in the county that was an absolute perfect example of how buildings should be fire smarted. Their house was basically unscathed, right? And it makes our job a lot easier because we don't have to spend the time and resources to work on that house if it is properly fire smarted. If they are not fire smarted, then that is when you increase your risk of structural loss.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
All right, anything else? Again, thank you for, I know you put in a ton of hours, I got to see you.
I'm going home after
30
this,
hours,
yes.
yeah.
Sorry.
Enjoy some well-deserved rest, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And a motion received for information, all in favor? All right, I would like to make a motion so that we don't lose this, that council directs administration to ask CN why there is a charge to apply to do a burn along their tracks in town, and to request that they do a controlled burn along their tracks through our town.
We can invite them, if I may add, Mr. Mayor, invite them to present their reasoning in person.
Yeah, we could, but I guess, yeah, I'm just looking at, because like I agree with you, it makes no sense, and I'd like to see that whole strip. You know, we realize that that's an important strip to protect our town. If that was all burnt off, it would offer us some more protection. As it stands now, it's a hazard for us, and they didn't want it done, or made it very, very difficult to do. And I'd like to find out why and how we can get them to burn it off so we're safe moving forward.
From a purely selfish standpoint, I live right across from it, I can tell you, it's horrible through there. It is a hazard. And the biggest hazard of it is, if a fire starts through an ember, a discarded cigarette, anything, and if it starts at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody's gonna see it until it's already ripping down the tracks towards West Fraser, towards my house. You know, I mean, when they got it under control, it's an easy burn. But when it burns out of control, then that's where the problem starts. So, yeah, I would invite them to explain themselves in person as well.
All right, anything else to add to it? Councilor Kanaka?
Is that something that can be discussed or brought forward, because we are part of that CN Rail Alliance group? Is that something that they can discuss with them?
Oh, yeah, yeah, possibly, yeah.
Maybe this is retribution.
Yeah, we could possibly, well, I guess I was thinking of two things. Number one is, I'd like to get their rationale, and then
Oh,
if they're not
definitely.
gonna, and ask them to make sure they burn along here, which is strictly for us. But if we don't like the answer that we get, I agree with you, take it to the Rail Alliance and be one more issue that they can lobby on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Do you catch all of that? You got it? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Moving on then to our minutes from April 25th. Motion on this one. Councillor Shishin,
Okay, council approves the minutes from the April 25th, 2023 regular meeting of council as presented.
okay, any changes needed from the minutes? All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll go to new business 8.1. Oh, sorry. Missed
I
you.
just have a question
Okay.
regarding the sponsorship that the councilors made to the powwow. Do we know if that's being rescheduled?
There's no update on that.
Okay.
Available.
All right, so we'll move on then to the one that I added on there. I got an email from one of the residents. I'm not sure if he's still a councilor, was a councilor before, but asked if there was something that the town could do for giving swim passes or some kind of swims to the evacuees. I said, the timing is fantastic. We've got a council meeting tonight and then we can ask about it. So there was a request for their evacuees to be able to use the pool. And I would suggest that we offer them some, that they can go in during the public swim, and as long as they have their armband, that they would be able to go in at no charge, or the town would pick up the cost for them to go in for it. Councilor Martins?
So I'll declare a conflict and just remove myself from this conversation. Do you want me to leave, or do you want me to just not vote? I didn't even know what you were gonna say until you started speaking. I didn't want to interrupt, so.
I don't believe that there's a conflict here. I know your position out there, but this isn't something that is.
But it is puts her, if she ever
When in
just said
doubt,
no to.
step out
yes,
these days,
that's
so
right,
I-
when in
I-
doubt,
All right.
step-
You know,
Yeah.
There's a conflict.
Yeah.
I'll step out. You
Yeah.
guys discuss.
Thanks. So my motion, just to start this off, is that the town sponsor the evacuees for a free swim for, I'm not sure how much longer they'll be on evacuation notice, but for the next, well, but they won't be here the whole time.
Let's see one.
Well, anyway, I don't know if it should be for the end of time, but I'll say for the next 2 weeks. I'll put it there.
And we can look at it when we come back for the next meeting.
Yeah. Councillor Stenhouse?
So we had this discussion when the powwow asked for a sponsorship, and that we are in partnership with Big Lakes County. So we should not be offering up our services until we consult with them, as they do share our facilities with us.
I am suggesting that the town pays, like they keep track and we pay for it, so it's not,
Okay.
we're not impacting the county's
Oh.
portion of it. That's what I'm suggesting. So that we would have, the pool would keep track. If there was 10 people, it's $5 a head. We pay $50 for that swim, and we would sponsor it. And then that way it's clear and clean with our county neighbors.
Okay. I also want to point out that I noticed a lot of companies are sponsoring free swims.
I don't know that, but, or, I mean, that is another option, is to sponsor a free swim, I suppose. How do we want to do it? We could sponsor 3 or 4 swims, but I think that would involve extra time where our staff, we'd have to bring staff in just to do that swim, right? Because it wouldn't be within, everything is scheduled out. And if we wanted to sponsor a swim, it would have to be an additional time slot. So that was the thinking behind just paying for a public swim.
Yeah. You're right, just the way you're doing it there, people come in, because everybody's banded that has been evacuated, right? And so staff at the front just keep track, have a little tally sheet. At the end of the 2 weeks, well, if we're having a council meeting in 2 weeks, we can revisit it then and see what the situation is.
Okay, and just to be clear, the funds would probably have to come through our grants and sponsorship dollars, right? Is that where it would come from?
Council hasn't seen the quarterly variance report yet, but overall, the town is tracking to have a surplus for 223, so it can be accommodated within the overall budget.
Oh, okay. So, but again, we probably should keep track of it and what we're doing in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts or questions on that? All in favor? Carried. Good session.
I know, I kind of, to go.
Okay, moving on then to item 9.1, the tax rate bylaw. Can I get a motion on this one? Councillor Wakel.
I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw number 02-2023, the 2022-23 tax rate bylaw, to authorize the rates of taxation to be levied against accessible properties within the town of Hyper.
All right, thank you for that. And I'm going to turn it over to our CAO, and he can maybe just give us the highlights on this one. I know it's in the package.
Through the chair, again, council met on 3 dates, 3 or 4 dates dealing with the budget. Once the budget is adopted, the last step of the process is to set the tax rate, which is really a mathematical calculation. Once the budget's set, then we get what's called the return assessment roll, and then it's a pure mathematical calculation of what the tax rate is based on those 2 pieces of information. As staff administration alluded to during the budget, it was anticipated that the town tax rate share of the total tax bill would be around 3%, and that's where it stands based on the assessment information that came in. So that's part of the equation. The other 2 parts of the equation, and I apologize, the bylaw that's in your package is blurred at the bottom, so a new version that's been handed out that's clear. In addition, a piece of paper was handed out for illustrative purpose using a hypothetical $100,000 home to see the implications. So the implications on a $100,000 assessed home is roughly $31. So you have to remember that there's the change in the tax rate that happens, but assessments overall in the residential class for the town went up 2.5%. So a $100,000 home last year will now be assessed at $102,500. So that has to be taken into account when you do the math, to figure out the real impact on the house, on that typical house. So on the town share, it's a $31 increase in the tax burden per year. The school, let's just go through that briefly. The school's handled totally differently. The school takes what's called equalized assessment across the whole province. So the provincial government did not reduce the levy for municipalities, but the distribution among municipalities in the province changes every year. So this year, our share of that total distribution based on equalized assessment is decreasing somewhat significantly, and that is providing a bit of relief. So the school taxes are only up $3 a year, and the same thing for Heart River Housing, where their requisition is up roughly $6,000, which adds $1.46 for the $100,000 of assessment. If you got a $200,000 home, double it. If you got a $300,000 home, triple it. But this, from my perspective, makes the math easier. That being said, the overall tax impact of all three components on a typical household will be 2.7%, which equates to roughly 70 cents a week. Homeowners will see their taxes increasing. So the tax bills will be mailed out if council authorizes first, second, and third readings, then the administration can get the bills out. We do a combined assessment notice and tax bill as one mailing, and the tax due date is set at June 30th. So the bylaw has a bunch of calculations in it, but it basically sets out what the town's required in its operating budget, which has already been set by council. It brings in the requisitions from Alberta School Foundation, designated industrial property. So that's something the province did. Basically, they do assess what's called designated industrial properties across the province, but they bill the municipalities for that service. So that's what that's about. And then the Seniors Foundation, which is the housing authority for our jurisdiction. So those are the requisitions that legally council cannot change. And it's really only the town budget that council has preview over. So that being said, there's a bunch of calculations. There's the standard stuff about administratively what the penalties will be, how residents can pay, and that will all be supplemented by information that's available on our website. We'll still be actively encouraging people to get on our tax prepayment plan. A lot of advantages. If you're in the plan, you don't pay any penalties as long as you're current. So that's it in a nutshell. So if there's any specific questions, please to address.
All right, questions on this? I see none. We had a motion to give it first reading. All in favor? Carried. Get a motion for second reading. Councillor Dunn.
Well, I thought I knew what I was doing.
Just give second reading.
The council gives second reading to bylaw 02/2023.
All right. I'll throw it out there. Any other issues on second reading? All in favor? Carried. Now we need to proceed to third reading. It has to be unanimous. So I'll make the motion that we proceed to third reading. All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous, so that's carried. Anybody want to bring this bylaw home? Councillor Wakefield.
Move the council give third reading to bylaw 02/23. 02/2023, sorry. Let's get this right.
All right, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to item 13.1, the CAO's report and action list. Get a motion on this one? Councillor Dunn?
The council receives CAO Bill McKinnon's report and action list for information.
Thank you. All right, is there anything you'd like to add to the report?
Through the chair, no, I don't have any additional items. Please to take questions.
Councillor Danaka.
Just a couple. First one, WCB compliance audit. Can you expand on what those minor issues were that were noted?
Some of the contractors that were employed by the town were not compliant with WCB premiums, so that meant the town has to pay those premiums. The totality of the minor issues was around $2,000. So there was certain contracted staff that were employed by the town. There was no remittances under those contracts for WCB purposes. There should have been. Again, oversights, things do fall through the cracks, and that's really the intent of this compliance audit, to make sure that specifically contractors that are employed, especially contract employees, are remitting WCB.
Right. So my second question is regarding the evacuees that we have. I believe some of them are at the campground, the one by the hospital or whatever, PD Mart or whatever. Are they, do you know if they are paying the full rate?
Currently, they are paying full rate. So I could maybe just explain how that works a bit. Through the Emergency Operations Center, FCS is part of that team. They will place all evacuees, and costs will be recovered through their programming and amendments under the DRP program.
Okay.
So for now, I would suggest we just leave it that way.
Okay. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Right. Other questions? Councillor Stenhouse?
So I really want to address this topic, but I don't know if this is the place for it or in the news report. Do we want to talk about the the 1 hour evacuation hour alert? And the miscommunication that went out?
Yeah, we could talk about it, sure.
So, I myself have received numerous phone calls, people coming over panicked, they were packing, leaving town. I was also told today that RCMP were going to their doors telling them to leave because we were being evacuated. And now they have incurred extra expenses for their travel to Slave Lake to West Long. Are we gonna have a town hall to address these issues that the residents are having, or how are we gonna get this misconception cleared up?
I hadn't heard about that at all. But I know, like the 1 hour evacuation alert was set by the Emergency Operations Center once the fire got so close.
But we declared it.
No,
We didn't.
no, we did not declare that. That was the Emergency Operations Center that made that call. Once we went into a state of emergency, the Emergency Operations Center was the ones making those calls.
So how will we address this? To clear up the miscommunication that went through and the panic that went through the town with this alert?
I don't know. Yeah.
I guess what I would reinforce the council is all of the source of information is either the town's website or the county's website. That is the source of information. That is where the valid factual information is posted. And I would encourage all residents to refer to those websites to get the factual directions related to this incident. Third parties, Facebook, other sources of information are not reliable. The information on the town's website is current, active, and relevant. And that's what we have to continue to promote to the general public, is that's the source information go to in relation to this event.
But these alerts come out on the phone, they didn't come out on the website. These alerts were coming in, as we all know, 2 to 3 hours apart, 2 in the morning, 6 in the morning.
So the other alerts that the people that have signed up for that on their phone will be getting phone messaging, but the messaging is exactly the same that's being pushed out through the emergency coordinating committee. So those are valid. Other sources of information may not be accurate.
So RCMP physically going to someone's door is not accurate information?
I'm not aware, and I've been at the EOC, that issue hasn't been raised, but I will raise it with the EOC. If correction is needed, correction will happen. But as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been reported through the EOC.
Councillor Dunn.
I think if we have a town hall, that it's exactly what he's talking about with Trevor, though, is an educational time where we present exactly what you've said, Bill. This is where you go for correct information. And because I think people, when they saw people being evacuated from the hospital, then started to realize or started to fear that, oh, it must be getting close. And so they made decisions based on what they were seeing, not on what they read or heard. And I think we need to talk about that, and we need to make it clear that there's a process, and you don't wait to evacuate your ill and people that, you know, that has to be done ahead of time. It doesn't mean that you need to leave yet. If you choose to, that's your decision. And try to help people understand, just because you see something, don't allow your fear to overwhelm your thought process, right? And do the reading, do what you need to do. So it's an opportunity for
It
learning.
is, yeah, we need to clear this up.
Well, and we can certainly check if there was, and we can ask. I know at the Emergency Command Center, they have RCMP, or they're part of that team. So I would be shocked if they got a different message than what was developed, or what was talked about there.
They did get a different message.
If I could, again, I would encourage any member of council that has similar issues to email me directly, and then I can deal with them through the Emergency Management Committee. But awareness is part of the issue. Improvement in communication is always part of the issue, dealing with incidents. And the sooner we have the information, the better we will be in a position to clarify if clarification is needed.
All right.
So, with that being said, are we going to have a town hall, or?
Well, I think we could probably look into that one, what you're talking about first, and then see, and then make a decision from there. That's caught me by surprise, to be honest. I haven't heard about that. So how did it happen? Where did it happen? And then we can go from there to how to clear it up. And maybe you can chat with, about specifics, and we can ask about the specifics of this person or that person that got a visit.
And phone calls to come and remove their parents from the lodge?
Well, we can address that one right here. I know that Heart River Housing made that call, very similar to what Councillor Dunn was talking about with the you know, the sick and the elderly, and you have a facility full of them, you don't want to wait till the last minute to move them out. And when it went to a 1-hour evacuation, they weren't convinced that they could move out and evacuate the whole lodge in that time. So they did phone the parents, or the, not the parents, so yeah, they asked to come and get their parents if they would, and the ones that didn't, they moved them out. So, I mean, that's, Heart River Housing made that decision. And they knew that they were not being required to evacuate. They made the decision to evacuate for that reason, same reason that the hospital did.
I think once this crisis is over, there's lots of issues that need to be looked at on how things were done and how things were organized for the next time, that those mistakes aren't made.
But when you say when this is all over, you were at the town hall last night, and the information, this isn't gonna be over for a while. Like, we're all gonna be on alert for a while, so I would actually like to get this cleared up sooner than later. Because there's still miscommunication and misunderstanding on these alerts and the information going out.
Now, when you say there's still misinformation being sent out, who's sending out misinformation?
It's not misinformation, it's being misinterpreted. Like, we've gone from a 1-hour to a 4-hour alert. I don't believe they all understand that the alert, I think we need to reword these. We need to be more clear on what these alerts are and what it's all about.
Well, we can make that suggestion to the EOC if there's confusion. I mean, I think they're using the same language that's been used on alerts across the province, but it's getting misinterpreted, and we need to look at it, see if we can change it.
Because the 1-hour alert that was sent out by emergency management, all people saw in big bold letters was prepare to evacuate. They didn't see the 1-hour alert. They didn't read past that. They just saw prepare to evacuate, and they were packing and going. So I agree with Councillor Stenhouse. The message needs to be somehow conveyed in a more concise way, I guess.
You have to understand people learn differently, and so I think we need to put out more different ways of explaining what this is about. And you gotta remember, this fire had been burning for 2 days. People were watching the skies. Like I said, people were already alert to what was going on. And then the phones start going off, and they're just seeing, like you say, just seeing that message, they hit panic mode. Things have calmed down. Why could we not just clarify it? You talk about your Facebook posts and why couldn't we put out a newsletter? Why can't we help them understand now instead of, well, they misinterpreted it. They were already in panic mode. Now their panic mode has come down, they've calmed down. Let's put it out there again. Should there be a flare-up or another incident happen?
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, a lot of that, again, it didn't come from the town itself, right? It was the Emergency Operations Center. So we need to I guess, see if we can get them involved and hear if those things were happening, what are the concerns, because I don't know if they're aware of that either.
So why can't we, as a town, do it ourselves? Why can't we
could,
put
but
that out?
I guess we can, but what I'm saying to you is that we would, it isn't anything that we control directly. If we want to explain, you know, the differences between an alert and an evacuation order, we can certainly do that. And that seems what people were confused at, right? This was an evacuation alert, not an evacuation order. And you know, you hear an evacuation alert, they might have interpreted that as an order, and yet that's the language that's used by Alberta Emergency Management across the province. But we can try to explain that.
Exactly. We were informed. We understand that. But everyone else, well, not everyone, but there was a majority of our citizens who were watching the skies, watching what was going on, misinterpreted what the alert was compared to the order. And I just don't want to brush it off, well, they misinterpreted it. No, there was very panicked and concerned citizens.
CEO and then Councillor Waco.
Through the chair, I will take your concerns back to the EOC. We will heighten the communication. Council must remember in 2021, Council passed an emergency management bylaw that delegates these powers through the bylaw. So what the council is suggesting is not in accordance with the emergency management bylaw of the town. So again, if you don't have access to that, it's on our website. Again, I don't want to be flippant, but we will, at the Emergency Management Center, enhance communications. At any of these events, and I've been involved in 6 to 10 of these major events, some where the Emergency Management Center has been operating for periods of months. Communication is always a thing. At the end of this incident, the EOC team will do a debriefing, specifically targeting what needs to be done immediately in terms of advocacy, and it's always the communication item that will be on the list. What can we push out to the residents? What can we put on our website to be proactive? The fire chief mentioned FireSmart. There's numerous other programs and information sources out there that encourage homeowners to manage their facilities and their properties, how to get out of your house. You have 2 escape mechanisms. All those things can be done. So I'll leave it at that. I hear the councillor saying, and I will commit to raise and enhance the communications through the EOC. And some of it may be just educational materials that we post on our town website that have nothing to do with the EOC, but we can do a combination of both.
Okay. Councillor Waco.
As a suggestion to take back to the EOC, perhaps, I mean, we all get the tones that come through, and they're flashing and they're loud and they're scary, especially when you're on edge. It's absolutely, I've got a 24-year-old daughter who was freaking out at 3 o'clock in the morning. She thought we had to go right now. Perhaps something that can go out as a companion to the alert is a video message where there is somebody actually speaking, saying, this is an alert. What that means is pack your bags and be ready to go within an hour of being told you have to go. Or this is an order, that means get in your car and go now. Just something to, because the loud flashing, the message can easily be misinterpreted. I totally understand that. So if a video message can go out as a companion piece to that, even if it's just something that they pre-record months in advance. If it's somebody in Edmonton, a member of the public service that pre-records that says, this is what this level of alert means.
Yeah, well, like I say.
Something.
You mean audio?
Yeah, audio visual, you know, where you're actually looking at somebody who's speaking to you. And it's just something that could be pre-recorded. This is an alert, this is an order, and this is what it means. Feedback, right? We learn.
That's right. And I don't know what that system is capable of, but if they could do audio along with the printed stuff, might help clarify some of that miscommunication. That's something maybe they could ask about too at the EOC. I don't know. I'm not sure what that system can handle.
It may have to come down to provincial level, right?
If I could, through the mayor, there is, if it's issued by Alberta Emergency Management and you get an alert over the phone, there is a text, there is a verbal message that is spoken to you over the phone. They do not issue those alerts. The alerts are actually issued through the Emergency Management Center here. We fill out the paper form, we push it out to them, and then they broadcast it on behalf of any municipality or agency that wishes it to be posted. Like you say, part of it is, you know, they need to educate people on what the terms are, because there's specific terms for these incidents and the like, and some individuals aren't familiar with the terms and need education, so I agree with that. So we'll do endeavor to enhance our educational component on the town's website and Facebook and the like to provide additional explanatory information related to some of the terms that may come out. The difference between an alert and an order, they're totally different. Again, the message right now is the town is only at the alert stage. There is no order. So there's precautionary messaging that goes with that. Here's how you should prepare, here's what you should consider, those type of things. So we can put a broader message on from an educational perspective on the website. That's not an issue.
Councillor Dunn?
So does the OC have, does the OC have a debriefing at some point? Because here's the fact, this community's gone through a traumatic event, right? Once that event is over, people are, and I think this is part of what I saw last night, people got to voice their concerns, and maybe it could have been done in a better way. But I think that's one of the things that helps for future events that may happen, is when you are able to heal and talk about what you experienced and share your concerns and have somebody address those, it justifies what you went through, and then it helps you understand what you can do better next time. So I'm wondering if that's part of the OC's plan.
That is always the case at the conclusion of any incident. So you have to remember too, there's the incident command, which is totally different than the EOC. Incident command are actually, in this case, the firefighters, and that's comprised of the urban firefighters, i.e. our town department, the county's department, and wildfire. Wildfire is the lead in terms of the incident command. They coordinate that aspect. The EOC just assists in terms of resources they may need. We need 25 bulldozers, get them for us. Their job is to be out there fighting the incident. EOC is really a coordinating communication planning role, but not as it relates to the act of fire. So there's, again, it's complex, but there's different pieces, but the main piece always of any debriefings is communication. So I've already had a discussion with the CEO of the county. We both have committed to do a debriefing and specifically additional training in relation to staffing of the EMC, clarity of roles, clarity of messaging, all those type of things. We've already started a list of items that need to be debriefed on.
Thank you.
All right, so I think for me, we'd move on. Is there anything else on the CAO's report? I'm just wondering what the community building fund was that you completed the compliance on. What was?
So that's the new name for the federal gas tax fund.
Oh,
So,
okay, that, gotcha.
so both the MSI program, which is the provincial program, and the federal program, which is now called the Canada Community Building Fund, require compliance reports annually.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Okay, Councillor Tanaka, then Councillor Waco.
No, I was just scratching my head.
Oh, okay, just Councillor Tanaka then.
So I just want to confirm that we are still meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock for the bylaw.
the meeting is scheduled, yes.
Okay.
Technically, we're all one.
Okay, any other questions for a CAO? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Move on then to FCSS report. Motion on this one. Councillor Stenhouse.
The council received the FCSS April 2023 report for information.
All right. Any questions or comments on this report?
Through the mayor, there was one item that, maybe it is on the agenda, but I think it's on the agenda, which is, oh, sorry, it's 14.2 related to FCS, sorry.
Okay. There was a thing we wanted to ask about that.
Right, things changed. I was gonna look into it, but things changed right after our meeting, and I didn't think it was time to, it was the right time to bring that up, so it's gone.
Okay, so we don't have an answer. Well, let's just go on the report for now. Is there anything else any questions on the report? We had the motion to receive for information. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 14.2, and a motion on the Seniors Week barbecue.
I would like to make that motion.
Go ahead.
The motion is that council host a barbecue during Seniors Week at the Sports Palace parking lot on June 9th, 2023 from 11:30 to 1:30 for recognition of, I'd like to recognize all community that aided in the wildfire, and it would be a good time to present our Citizen of the Year award. So this would be a community barbecue, not a seniors barbecue is what I'm getting at.
All right. Thoughts, questions, comments?
Could we not keep it a seniors barbecue and allow them the opportunity to recognize people that have put themselves out there in terms of fighting the fires, and also recognize the Citizen of the Year? Wouldn't that make, because in my mind, this has always been their event. Why would we move to remove that from them? And at the same time, it allows them to honor people in their community that have gone above and beyond in making our community safe, and also a citizen that has gone above and beyond in contributions to the community.
Okay, Councillor Martins?
Okay, so.
Well, hold on, Councillor Martins.
Oh, sorry. So, Councillor Stenhouse, I understand where you're coming from with that. In addition to what John said, I worry about the budget that we've allocated for the seniors barbecue. One, it's during seniors week. Two, I wonder if we do a community event, if that dollar amount is enough, because now we're opening it up to the community, not just seniors. So I get your intent, you know, given also the time that we're in, it does align with recognizing all of the efforts and just the hands and the hearts and the community that have come together for Wildfire and the Citizens of the Year award. But I just wonder if, I don't know, I just wonder if we can do it because of the week and because of the 1,700 that we've allocated for only seniors, right?
Okay, the other thing I'm gonna throw out there, and we haven't really talked about it yet, is we were looking, in the past, we did have a community recognitions or citizens recognition barbecue around Canada Day, the July 1st weekend. I know it's been a while since we've done it with COVID and everything else, but I guess that's something else that we could look at, and it might, are we able to do that again? Do we have the budget? Do we have the manpower to pull that off? And again, if we do that, I think it would be a better time for the recognizing the, especially Citizen of the Year at that time. But again, I don't know, I can't say that we're gonna host that. Or do we just do one event and group it all together? And then it would have to be a bigger budget, as was mentioned, for sure. The flip side of, doing two events, it is our, as council, we did help flip a lot of burgers and do stuff. However, there is a lot of setup and a lot of prepping, and that isn't usually done by council, that's done by the staff. So we would have to, make sure that we have the manpower to pull that off. Geez, everybody's thinking, eh?
I stand by my comments.
Yeah.
I stand by mine. If we're gonna do it, if it takes a lot of manpower, why don't we do it once? I think we need a coming together here after this. And you'll have your seniors out, you'll have everybody out. We have a sponsorship and donation fund that we're allotted to if we have to dip into that.
Is there anything budgeted for the community barbecue in this year's budget?
Not specifically.
Okay.
So there's a question, like, do we want to do two? Do we want to do one? Or, and if we were gonna do one, do we want to do it during Seniors Week and tie it into that, or do we want to do what we've done in the July long weekend? Or we never did it on the long weekend, it was usually, I think, before.
The Friday.
The Friday before, or the Thursday, because people leave on Friday, or Friday at lunch. So, just some thoughts there.
I think we stick to one. However.
Yeah. All right, well, maybe we'll just go around, get a feel for what people want to do. We'll start with Councillor Danaka. Do you want to just do one event and open it up, or do you want to do two events, or do you just want to leave the one event for seniors?
Well, I'm looking at time frame. We have one more meeting in May. We still have to figure out Citizen of the Year, which we haven't done yet. If you believe, or if you were at the MD meeting last night, we could still be in this in June. I mean, we still could be in this in July, I don't know. But for me, I would like to keep it as two separate events. This one's for the seniors, the one in July could be a community thank you for the farmers, firefighters, friends and family, and the Citizen of the Year. So for me, I'd like to do two.
Councillor Ashishin?
My preference would be to keep it with the seniors right now. You know, this is gonna be ongoing for a while with the fires and that, so I think it would probably be better. I mean, the seniors, that's fine. I think it's good when it is, because there's a reason for it at that time. But I look at it a little bit later in the summer, like towards the end of the summer for the second. I agree with, definitely, with the idea of that, but I think just a little bit later date.
Okay. Councillor Wakel?
They're both really good arguments. Why do you both have to make sense? I guess the question to administration would be is, are we gonna have enough staff manpower to pull this off, to have the two?
If it's done on a weekday, the second event that is, and obviously the seniors is on a Friday, we should be able to manage and just redeploy staff for that day. If it's on a weekday, if it's on a weekend, that creates more challenges.
Well, I do like the idea of keeping the senior stuff separate, you know, and have a separate one to acknowledge the community and the output that's been done. So I would say to go with the two. Good argument.
Councillor Martins?
Yeah, I'm with you, James. I don't know which way to go, but yeah, I could, just because it's a seniors week and we want to recognize that population as well and give them some time. And I know there's more effort and probably more cost to do two events, but I don't know. You know, and on the flip side, I like the timing of recognizing our wildfire, but if it came down to it, I would go two events, providing that we can do two. The thing with having a weekday event for the community and Citizen of the Year, you know, a lot of people work, and you know, weekend events are better for something like that. So, but I know it's tougher to get staff. So it's a coin toss. So let's flip heads or tails, because I really could vote either way.
And I know where Councillor Dunn's at.
Cemented.
Just adding, as a senior myself.
Conflict.
We should declare conflict of interest.
Yeah, totally.
You know where I stand.
Yeah. No, as a senior,
You too?
whatever the number is, no, it takes too much preparation to put together two. And I've attended a lot of these seniors barbecues, and they're not good attendance. It's all which way the wind is blowing or the temperature, and I really want to reach out to
the farmers in Banana Belt who not only saved the county, but they saved the town. I wanted to let them know that we appreciate everything they've done. So I'm sticking to one community event.
Okay, just in my thoughts, I do also see there's pros and cons for both ways of doing it. I kind of like the two events. One, it's just the Canada Day one has been good in recognizing it. I know that usually around that time, the county usually does theirs too. So it is kind of nice to do one around the same time that they do theirs. So that would be my preference.
I'm not saying to bring back that barbecue. I just want it for this year. Not that we bring back a yearly community barbecue.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. All right, well, we have a motion on the floor. We've talked it to death. So the motion was to have one barbecue on the same date and time. However, it is not a seniors barbecue, it is a community barbecue and we would recognize the Citizen of the Year and firefighters at the event. All in favor?
Why are you guys voting that way?
Opposed? Okay, that's the feeling.
Why are you voting no?
I was agreeing with you. I just wanted to change it a bit.
All right, so we'll have to look and start thinking about a July 1st date and look at that, maybe bringing that to a future council meeting so we can get that started. Now, you can get another motion on this particular issue of having a seniors barbecue.
I'll move that council support host a seat barbecue for seniors in the Sports Palace parking lot, Friday, June 9th, 2023, from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Moving on then to item 14.3, the Alberta Health Services powwow sponsorship request. Get a motion on this one? Councillor Dunn?
That the following council members, whoever decides and chooses to allocate the funds as follows.
All right. So, maybe just really quickly, who's interested in using there's grant dollars for this? Oh, I see two hands.
No, I'm not interested. I have a comment.
Okay.
We have a policy on this, but I just want to remind you guys, we have a policy on this, that the requests are gathered all year round and issued quarterly.
Well, it's a little bit confusing on that one because there is conflicting policies. One for grants and sponsorships is that they can be given out throughout the year. And there is a policy that says a donation is given out quarterly.
But we don't have two accounts. We only have a donation
I
account.
know what you're saying. It's, well, it's not a donation, it's a grants and sponsorship account that in terms of what it's assigned at in there, but it's a fine line there. I see it.
Just for clarification, I believe there is two accounts, two separate accounts, so.
There's a donation, and then there's a sponsorship and grants,
Right.
and they're all combined into the 35.
There is a sub-accounts.
Okay, so, we need to clean that up. That's something that we need to, there's, for the policy committee can look at what's a sponsorship and what's a donation, and if there's a difference, because I know I don't understand the difference at this point in time, so how will anybody else understand the difference? It's not really clear.
And the parameters around when they are to be awarded.
Yes, because there is two different conflicting policies depending on whether you call it a sponsorship or whether you call it a donation. So sponsorships, though, can be given out throughout the year. The policy does allow for that. So, and we do have a request on this one. So for the sake of argument, we could say it is a sponsorship. And I guess the question is there people that would help support this cause? I see one.
Did we not just support the powwow the last?
That was the interagency powwow. This is a different powwow. This is being hosted by Alberta Health Services. Yeah. And it would be, yeah, in their facility there, in their complex. Councillor Dunn is interested. I saw 3, 4. I would put in a little bit.
You can't do one and not the other. So all of us who did the last one would be crazy to do one and not the other. So yeah, you know.
Okay. Now, and their total is not as high as the other one. Like it's a much smaller proceeds. So, you know what?
There were 5.
I think 5, yeah.
Yeah.
$100 each.
So, actually, I was I was going to suggest that we cover the drumming group, so that would be $200 each, actually.
Oh.
I just, through the mayor, suggest that you just do the dollar amount. Some of these items may have already been allocated to other sponsors, and it just becomes confusing. If that's not available, then do I bring it back to council, or what do I do, you know what I mean? So
I will move that we sponsor $1,000 for this project.
Okay, the
Divided
people
by
that were
5.
willing to commit, is that work for you?
Yeah.
Councillor Shishin, I'm not sure where are you at?
Yeah, no.
Well, you cleared that right up for me.
No, can't get it off this.
You're in, okay, so there's
Six.
4, 5, 6, okay. So 6 divided into 1,000, we'll let you do the math. All in favor? Opposed? All right. Moving to High Prairie beautification, can I get a motion on this one? Councilor Stenhouse?
The council received High Prairie beautification report for information.
All right, and I see in here, and we can chat with beautification afterwards, but they did need some, needed our support to put it into some of the town's lands, and we can talk about that. But I don't think anybody would object to having some trees planted on the town's lands, but we'd have to just be clear on where. Councillor Wago?
Oh, I have an idea as to where.
No,
We-
well, they have ideas as to
Yeah, it's
where
their-
also. They have
Yeah, oh, yeah,
lots of
no, I
ideas.
just
Yeah.
wanted to,
It's their project, not yours.
Yeah, so, but I don't see anybody really objecting to that. Anything else on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Moving on to our, well, notice of upcoming meetings. We know we have the policy committee meeting tomorrow. That's the big one coming up. Okay. Yeah. Oh, bylaws, yeah, bylaw. All right, moving on then to our council reports. And we will start with, oh man, I can't remember where we ended.
Just started at the top.
Okay, we'll start at the top again. Councillor Danaka.
Basically, I have no report because I've attended the same meetings that everybody else has, the last council meeting, the emergency meeting. Just a reminder that the celebration key for the anniversary of the trails we blazed,
Trails to Blaze.
history book is this weekend from, I think, 2 to 4 at the museum. Everyone's invited. I move my verbal report for information.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Dunn.
I'm in the same boat, have no reports as I haven't attended any other meetings. However, I would like to, speak on behalf of the Children's Resource Council and say, a huge thanks and a shout out to Null and the staff there for all that they have done in assisting with the evacuees and, preparing meals initially when they came in. And also, giving board games and toys and stuff to the hotels so that children that were being placed would have something to do while they were there. So, big thanks to them. And I move my report, verbal report for information.
So many things go on that you don't even know about, eh? That's fantastic. Yeah. All right, any questions or comments for Councillor Dunn? All right, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Martins?
No report, and in addition to CRC, the High Prairie Native Friendship Center really deserves, their staff and executive director there really opened the doors and have every day, they had breakfast and they allowed the evacuees and council to meet and gather and fed and supported and accepted donations, and they're still doing that. So thank you to them as well. And CRC's been fantastic also, as is every other volunteer there. So let's not just single anyone out. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Myself, I have had a few meetings. We'll start with, we had a joint recreation meeting, and sort of the highlights from that meeting was, number one, we had a report from a consultant that had put together or evaluated the town's performance in recreation in comparison to other communities in terms of revenues and operating expenses. To keep things short, number one, that High Prairie does invest more in recreation than some other communities do, and that's likely directly a result of having 2 arenas. There isn't any other communities of our size that had 2 arenas. So it was hard to compare apples to apples in this report. We made that very clear. By the point that, we do invest more, but we have more facilities than other communities. Our revenues are higher than other communities, so that's good. And then the net between the two, we're very close because our expenses are higher, our revenues are higher, but the net difference is very close to those other communities. So it was interesting to get an independent third party that said, yeah, your town is doing good in relation to other communities. And there's like some things that were good and some things that weren't, like our ice rate rentals are higher than some of the other communities, but then we're lower on some of the user fees in other areas. So it's sort of hit and miss, but overall, I took it as pretty good. And the other part that came out of that is there was a lot of discussion on the arena is moving along and sort of going ahead. That's been good. There was issues with the ice plant, or they changed out the condenser, but now they have to, by law, put a fence around the new one. And so there's an extra expense that will likely be involved in putting a fence around that. And it's going to be a high fence. They were trying to get pricing on it, but it wasn't something that we're aware of at the time. There was talk around we got the score clock donated, but the clock that was donated was small. So we've asked them to get a bigger one. There'll be a bit of extra price on that, so it'll be, the one that was up there was 25 feet, and the one that they had was 5 feet. Yeah, so it was like, it wouldn't be, it was small, and it was a nice gesture, but we are going to sort of update it and get a new clock there. What else happened in that? So that was that was the key things in there. Yeah, the other thing that we looked at a lot and had a lot of discussion around was the terms of reference for the Recreation Committee. What could they approve? What couldn't they approve? A lot of confusion over what their role was. So at the end of the day, the committee put it to the two CAOs to come up with a recommendation to bring back to both councils to make sure everything is sort of cleaned up and we understand. And I'm sure that Councillor Waco will fill in anything that I might have missed there on that.
No, you got it all.
Yeah. I attended a sort of I'm not sure what the official title of it would be, but a meeting on trying to reduce, not crime, that's not the right one, it's the effects of people loitering around town and that kind of things. So there was a lot of discussion on that. We were very fortunate to have a judge come in and speak on the community impact assessments, or community impact statements that could be put together. And everybody was willing to do that and work on it. And when I say everybody, the business communities understood how they could put some input into that. They were going to be collecting and getting data on, this person did this on this day and this was the impact, and keep track of that. The town was going to put together sort of an overall statement on some of the impacts to the town because of this, such things as the post office being closed early, banks not wanting to open up their ATMs because people are using those areas inappropriately. So between the business community and the town, the RCMP, they were also willing to look at these people now that they sort of knew who they were and what issues they were calling, to be a little more aggressive with them, so that it can hopefully get dealt with. And they really thought there was 5 or 6 people in the community that were causing a lot of these havoc, and if you can deal with them, hopefully it'll help. But so there is a lot of strategies on how to deal with them, with the police, our bylaw, the town. Everybody's looking to, I guess, help with some of that, come up with the statements. And it'll help once it gets to court, and this will help get some of these issues to court, because sometimes in the past the police would deal with somebody and they'd just say, go away, don't do that again. But now they would look at charging them, getting these impact statements, and then it would all hopefully get dealt with. What else did he have? Well, we had our emergency meeting. I also went to several of the emergency command center or operations center meetings just to listen in and see what was happening there, get the updates, and then we did those video updates on Facebook to say, hey, let people know that verbal sort of stuff going out there, that this is what's happening, here's the highlights. I did have a broadband committee meeting, and for that one, basically the broadband construction is on pace. They are looking at maybe doing a community appreciation and info barbecue on May 18th. They were asking about doing
Let's
that.
develop on that.
Yeah, so they were looking and saying, yeah, we just want to thank the people, and they would have a little barbecue and on the 18th, so that's a possibility. May 18th.
That's next Thursday.
Yeah. Now, they didn't confirm it at that meeting, but that's what they were looking at doing. So hopefully they'll get back and confirm or not confirm that. Their uptake, they said that they had about, they were doing pretty good on their uptake. They figured that they were, I'm going to say, above what they expected, so that was good. They are, on schedule. The uptake has been good. I think that's sort of the highlights from my end. Oh, one of the other things, just I know you might get asked this question because I've been asked it a lot, is when they went out, there's still some, especially with the stuff that was done in the winter, there was a lot of damages or they made holes in lawns and damaged stuff, and they went back and they filled it up with sand and sort of a gravel mix, but they said they don't want to put topsoil and seed it right now because a lot of times that settles. So they wanted to wait a few months, and that would be one of the last things that they do in town so that the settling occurs and that they don't have to go back again and again. So if you get asked that question, they are still planning on doing it, but they are going to wait till a little bit later in the year to do the grass and seeding on that stuff. With that, I'll move my report for information. I'll take any questions also. Councillor Danaka.
Is there a email address or a web page or something that people can send their community impact statements to?
They can, no, there isn't, maybe Bill, what was the process
The
there?
process there is, it would be filed with the courts.
Okay.
It would get on the docket related to the individual, that whatever charges are against that individual, so it's tied to the docket,
So where would these go?
to the courthouse.
To the court, okay. So I thought initially it was like a general overall impact statement. Now they want specific?
They thought that the specifics would really help.
Okay.
And then there's the general impact statement, because it's not per se one person
Right.
that's causing all of this.
Right.
It's that 5 or 6.
Okay.
And that's the general one, but when it comes to the specifics, they can say, you know what, this person they've cost this business, they've had to deal with them 32 times in the last month. Every time they deal with them, it's been this much, so there's an impact on the business, this is the impact on the community. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? No. I move my report for information. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Stenhouse.
So, other than all the other meetings that everyone else attended, on April 26th, I attended the beautification meeting there. Met with their crew, not everyone was there, but got to know who was on the beautification committee. On April 27th, I met with the premier at the Days Inn, and that is it to add to my report.
You wanna move it?
I move my verbal report for information.
All right, any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Waco?
You said it all. No report.
All right, and Councillor Yashishin?
I attended the one meeting on May 8th. It was the Canadian Fibre, same one as mayor. It was a good update meeting on their progress, as was mentioned, and they answered some general questions that we had there. And I see they're on the far west side of town, so they're probably about maybe kind of a block from the river, the last block in town. So they're really making, I kind of watched them coming across, they're moving actually quite quickly, so yeah, they're making really good progress there. And I moved my report for information, unless there's any questions.
All right, seeing any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. And we have our last agenda item, but we'll take a break before we do that. So we'll take a 10-minute break.